Firstly, on behalf of Jonathan and myself, we're the co-hosts today. On our behalf, I just want to say thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It's great to see so much interest in this topic. But yeah, we'll keep our introductions relatively short because we want to get on to our guest speakers. Can you see my screen okay? First check. There we go. So this is me and this is Jonathan. Coincidentally, we're two Englishmen living in Austria, but that's where the similarities come to an end, I guess. We're both working on Horizon Europe projects. I'll allow Jonathan to introduce himself, but I am working for RTDS Group based here in Vienna, and we are on the consortium of the Recount project, which is touching upon today's topic. So perhaps Jonathan would like to introduce himself.
Yes, very briefly. My name is Jonathan Clark. I work for EIT Manufacturing East, which is one of 6 different regional offices of EIT Manufacturing. We cover the whole of Europe, but I work in the Austria branch for EIT East. I say Austria branch, it's located in Austria, in Vienna as well. And I work as communications manager for the DATA4CIRC project, amongst a couple of others.
Great. And yeah, so both of our projects focus in on this topic, or at least this is a key part of those projects, the idea of digital product passports, which is what inspired us to put together this webinar. And we were very delighted to see active interest from the speakers, active interest from all the registrations we received. So it's clearly something that resonates. But for more on that, I guess we will pass immediately over to our first speaker, which is Dimcho Dimov from Hadea. We've spoken to you in the framework of all our projects. And yeah, I guess I'll just pass straight over to you, Dimcho, and you can get us going.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be very brief and very, very quick. My name is Dimcho Dimov, Project Officer in Hadea Unit B32, Advanced Materials. For those who don't know, Hadea stands for European Executive Health and Digital Agency, but in fact our portfolio comprises quite a lot of industry. And I have the pleasure to be a project officer monitoring one of the projects behind this event, in particular Project Recall. So in fact, I would like to present very quickly my own view on the issue. Our threat of Ariadne, digital product passport, evolution, policy framework, and future prospects. Our threat of Ariadne for the labyrinth of challenges to industrial safety and sustainability. Next slide. Overview. What link could possibly exist between ancient Greek myths and the modern industrial world? I would say more than one could assume on the first glance, for the correlation, though the correlation is not always positive, with a positive twist. Let's take the subject of the digital product passport and see if we can find a link with particular Greek myth. There is one myth that I would evoke that I think everybody knows by heart. I would like to start with the argument that the digital product passport, DPP from now on, represents a transformative innovation within the European Union's sustainability framework, serving as our modern-day thread of Ariadne. Next slide. Just as Ariadne's thread guided Theseus through the labyrinth of the Minotaur, the DPP should guide us through the complex maze of industrial pollution and hazardous substance dispersion, promising a brighter and more sustainable future. In other words, by creating a data-driven identity for products, the DPP provides a clear pathway to navigate the challenges posed by today's intricate industrial systems. It enhances traceability, transparency, and promotes circular material flows, aligning with the objectives of the European Green Deal and Circular Economy Action Plan. Embedded in the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, from now on ESPRA, the DPP is a cornerstone in building a competitive, socially advanced, and environmentally sustainable economy, helping us find our way through the modern labyrinth of environmental and social challenges. Next slide. Thank you. Policy evolution. The DPP concept emerged, just as a reminder, in the 2020 Circular Economy Action Plan and was developed later, elaborated further through the Sustainable Products Initiative. It became a formal legislative instrument for the ESPRA, the regulation that I mentioned above, which mandates product group specific data requirements. Ongoing Commission consultations are trying to refine its technical implementation, data governance, and certification rules for DPP service providers. Next slide. Strategic importance. The DPP underpins the EU's transformation towards safe and sustainable production by embedding life cycle data in product governance. It strengthens consumer protection by providing verifiable sustainability information, countering greenwashing, and enabling more informed consumer choices. By improving product data quality, it supports the precautionary principle, Article 191 of the Treaty for the Functioning of the European Union, through better evidence and monitoring of potential risks. Next slide. Efforts for its internationalization. The EU is actively promoting global alignment on DPP standards via institutional regulatory dialogues and through multilateral fora, through its participation in multilateral fora. UNITS and ISO, two of the main international standardization bodies, launched joint initiatives on DPP interoperability, while the EU leverages instruments such as the Global Gateway and standards diplomacy to support third country adoption. The combination of EU market leverage and international standardization gives the DPP strong potential for global diffusion. Next slide, please. Key implementation challenges, yet the future of the DPP as a policy instrument operational tool shouldn't be taken for granted despite its importance for the twin green and digital transition. Number of challenges around its adoption still persist and give easy points to its detractors. Ensuring data quality, verification, interoperability across product categories, managing confidentiality, intellectual property concerns, supporting SMEs and international suppliers to reach technical and financial readiness, establishing clear governance and liability for DPP service providers. These are only some of the forums, the problems still covering the way for the full deployment of the DPP potential. Next slide. Future outlook. The Commission plans to adopt project-specific implementing acts and certification frameworks under the ESPRA, integration with the Empowering Consumers Directive, and eventually with the draft Green Claims Directive, if adopted, would upgrade the importance of the DPP data, making it a reference source for sustainability claims. In the longer term, DPP are expected to integrate with European data spaces and to advance further the circular economy services. Thank you very much. Next slide. Future operational priorities for full deployment of the DPP potential. Relevant measures to ensure the full potential of the DPP are prioritization with integration in the regulatory frameworks of high-impact sectors while ensuring SME support mechanisms to assist coping with resulting challenges for regulatory compliance. Acceleration of international standard convergence, as mentioned above, establishing robust verification and certification regimes for DPP service providers, embedding DPP data in consumer protection and precautionary decision-making frameworks, and more extensive use of the EU external action and leverage to internationalize DPP standards. Next slide. So in conclusion, the digital product passport stands as a pivotal tool in our journey through the labyrinth of modern industrial challenges akin to the mythical threat of Ariadne. By linking sustainable production, consumer empowerment, and global competitiveness, it provides the pathway needed to navigate towards a circular, data-driven, and socially responsible single market. I'll stop here and I'll give the floor to the real expert, Professor Martin Für, who is established expert in the field of international environmental law, and wish everybody else a nice continuation of the webinar. Thank you very much.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Dimcho. Always very happy to see a Greek mythology metaphor. So with that, I will follow on from what Dimcho said. We'll stick to our timing here, and we can move straight on to our second keynote speaker, Martin Für. I'll allow you to introduce yourself. Would you like to take over screen sharing, Martin?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Martin Für. I'm a legal scholar at the Darmstadt University. And on behalf of my team, I have the pleasure to introduce some of the interim findings of our Evolve project. This is based on the assumption that the DPP is a key enabler, the threat of Ariadne, of circular economy business models, and our strategy set out in Article 5.1. So the core question is how the opportunities in this respect can be leveraged by means of this Ariadne threat. And we have to keep in mind that this threat is bringing together dozens of other threats. So it's not only one threat in the DPP data set, but a huge number, and all of them have their challenges. One of the key challenges is that the data set is accurate, complete, and up to date, as stipulated in Article 9 of the ESPR. And this depends on some framework conditions. And our assumption is that there's a need for additional elements beyond the delegated act. In order to incentivize the data quality and to overcome the existing impediments in particular for those who have to provide data, so to add another threat to the Ariadne threat for the final DPP data set. And to test this conditions and their behavioral impacts, we conducted a simulation game which took place in the future in 2032. And I will present also some insight from this simulation game and a brief outlook as well. The REvolve project is a Horizon project, and the DPP framework is handled in Darmstadt, and together with the Wuppertal Institute and the service provider Integrated World and a number of pilot companies, we are testing the governance framework to overcome those hurdles. And starting point in our project was a scenario process with fully fledged cross-impact analysis, and this led us to a vision for the circular furniture ecosystem in 2040, so 8 years after the simulation game, and this can be read in our first deliverable, which would soon be published on our website. And the question there is which business models can profit from the DPP data set? And while thinking about this question, we could put it vice versa, which business models cannot profit from the DPP data set. So in essence, all can profit, obviously. However, there are quite a few issues that need to be clarified before this is fully operational, and this is what we are looking at. And we also extracted a number of hurdles for the implementation based on literature and expert interviews. And most of them are content-wise. There are also some technical aspects as well, but we are focusing on the content issues. We have a sister project, CIRC for Fun, which is more on the technical side. So we focus on this behavioral aspects, and you can see this in this slide from the European Commission services as well, where we have the distinction between the data and the data management on the right side and the system on the other. The system is more the IT, and this is more the actor perspective. And the actors need some functionalities, so there are implications from the actor perspective, and also they need some functions from the technical side. And with this function, the DPP and the Ariadne threat can link the whole value chain and unlock the potential of the circular economy business models. And that is at least our core assumption, if the whole system is aligned with the user needs for those business models. So being a lawyer, I'm always starting with a normative perspective here in the macro level. We have heard about this already. The ESPR is in the center, and there will be a delegated act for the technical side and a content-wise, product-specific, in our case, the furniture. And our governance framework is looking at this meso level and the implications on the micro level, so the implementation in the different economic operators or independent operators, so companies in this product field. And what we put at test in our simulation game was our governance framework, which had an organizational structure, quite brief, a number of procedural instruction helping the thread to run smoothly through the industrial worlds, and also a context constellation, including capacity building, but also in order to speak with one voice against the suppliers' terms of delivery, and also for the service-oriented business models terms of service. And of course, this is all be seen under the light of the delegated acts that we, for purposes of the simulation game, took the liberty to formulate them. So they are already delegated acts, more or less 100% based on the legal text, but this might be an interesting reading exercise to look at both documents. So the simulation game then, as mentioned, took place in 2032. The setting was a public tender for circular economy procurement, and we had two competing OEMs, their supply chain actors, several furniture service providers, and DPP service provider as well, and 25 participants, including the convener of the JTC 24. So there was also a link to standardization on a personal side, and this setting was played based on the assumption that the sector has agreed on such a governance framework already, starting 26, and then in fully functional since 2030. And the participants received a number of materials, an information folder with this fictitious delegated acts and the other governance framework, the public tender, fully formulated, a working book, and roll cards with instructions known only to those players. And this then took an entire afternoon with several rounds, and then a decision and a feedback round. I won't go into detail at this point of time, just jump to the insights. Very useful were the working books, and this also led to some open questions, and additional feedback was gained after the game in consultation with the company legal experts, and based on this, we refined the governance framework. Most of the things were already included, but some other issues were still to be adjusted. And one point is the clarity on the shared responsibilities, because without this clarity, the threat doesn't go smoothly through the industrial world. And looking once again at this slide, our suggestion would be that some of the procedural instruction ideally would be integrated in the delegated acts, so that there's a higher level of clarity, and this would also ease the contractual situation with suppliers inside the EU and even more outside the EU. This will be published in a few weeks, also a fact sheet with recommendations, and then be tested with at least 6 pilots in the first stage in 26 and 15 in the years later, accompanied by interviews and expert workshops. And so we'll have ready before the delegated act for furniture is in its final stage in the Commission services, some recommendation also in this respect. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions, suggestions, whatsoever, and hand the floor over to the organizers as well.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Martin. It's a very informative talk, very interesting. We do have a couple of questions that have come in, but I would like to stick to the original program, which is to move through to the panel discussion. So first we're going to have presentations from each of the 4 projects, and then there'll be a panel discussion between the 4 representatives of the 4 projects. And I hope that in that panel discussion, the question, at least one of the questions that has been asked so far, will be answered there. But we have kept a record of the questions that have been asked. If you do have any, please write them in the Q&A tool, and then we'll be able to, after the panel discussion, have an open Q&A session with the 2 keynote speakers and the 4 panelists.
Okay, so I guess we can move on to our first Horizon Europe presentation. This is Carolyn. I guess I'll leave it to Carolyn to introduce herself, and I have your slides here.
Sure, thank you. You can hear me well?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So first of all, SURPASS-2, I'm representing the SURPASS-2 project. It's not a Horizon Europe project, it's a Digital Europe project. So I'm a research engineer in CEA. So CEA is a French research institute. And SURPASS-2 project is about large-scale piloting across multiple sectors. If you go to the next slide, you will see a very brief snapshot of our 13 piloting ecosystems. I cannot possibly describe them all, but they do have many things in common. First of all, they are all operated by a different DPP solution provider. They all pre-existed the SURPASS-2 project, so none of this is piloting work being done from scratch. All of them are focusing on what was presented as the Ariane thread previously, on the DPP being used to achieve circularity goals downstream. So, for example, repair, maintenance, resell, refurbish, repair, etc. types of activities. And you will notice that there are many, many different sectors. And so if you go to the next slide, you will see that there's a reason why there are so many different pilots in SURPASS-2. We wanted this diversity to ensure that what we're proposing is aligned with the current state of the industry, because this industry, the DPP industry, is not starting from scratch. There are many, many existing DPP service providers. And so the question is more how to make sure that these existing services can become aligned to ongoing standardization activities and future regulatory requirements. And so we believe that this sectoral diversity is also very important to ensure that the DPP system, the cross-sectoral DPP system proposal and associated standards can apply across sectors. And this is very important to ensure that the system is future-proof. Okay, and finally, the last objective of SURPASS-2 is to prove that the DPP can be more than just a regulatory tool and a regulatory burden for companies, and can effectively promote economic and environmental sustainability. So if you go to the last slide, you will notice that many of our piloting environments are in product groups that will be the focus of upcoming ESPR work program, including textiles, apparel, furniture, with mattresses, tires, energy-related products, and ICT products. So we have the situation where companies are already making pilots because for DPP, or wanting to deploy DPP-enabled use cases because they see an economic benefit to that, but also may be affected in the near or medium or far future by mandatory DPPs. And so we have to negotiate how a business ecosystem can evolve from being voluntary based to regulatory based in the future. And so we're navigating this challenge all together. Thank you very much. Oh, if you would please show the small video that I sent to you. We are also promoting a DPP information sharing platform that can be used freely by anyone, by solution providers to present their solutions, and also by EU projects in order to present their DPP pilots.
Okay, sure. So hopefully the video works.
Are you looking for a place where you can interact with people interested in digital product passports?
We can hear it, but we cannot see it.
Ecosystem is designed as a place where
That's not ideal. Give me one moment.
Are you looking for a place where you can interact with people interested in digital product passports? The circular data ecosystem is designed as a place where DPP use cases, services, and innovations can be showcased by any organization at no cost. Get the information you need fast, whether you are interested in pilots, your national news, or sector-specific content. Because circular economy is about collaboration, the platform makes it easy to show how organizations are working together towards sustainable use cases. On the circular data ecosystem, groups of organizations are called clusters. Once you have registered, you can create or join an organization, which can then create or join clusters. Your partner organizations may then request to join your cluster. Every organization and every cluster has a landing page where they can describe their opportunities, innovations, and services, which are then shared with the entire ecosystem. Join us on Circular Data and help grow the data-enabled circular economy.
The DATA4CIRC project.
Next video, excuse me. Brilliant. Okay, Jonathan, would you like to lead us for a moment?
Well, I think we should be handing over to the Compass project, which is Teresa next. Teresa, are you able to share your screen? Because I did get your message that you had difficulty with the sound.
Excellent. Can you see my screen?
We can see your screen.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I was not able to check the sound set checkbox, so I might need your help with the video at the end of the project if we still have time for it. So apologies for that. My name is Teresa Oberhauser. I'm head of EU research and government affairs at Circularize, and we are leading the digital product passport work in the Compass project. Compass is a project that I'd love to give you a little bit of an overview today. A project that is led by Profactor from Austria, and that focuses specifically on digital product passports and traceability with the concrete examples of aerospace and automotive. And I'd love to give you a short insight, but most importantly, highlight how things are done differently and what makes this project really provide additional innovations and knowledge in the sector. In general, in the project, we are focusing on aerospace and automotive, specifically on composite materials and on metal sheets, and with a very specific focus on end of life. As you know, these materials are very hard to circulate, and product lifetime is extremely long. Therefore, they're a specific project focusing on this. So I think when we look at circularity and digital product passports, really seeing the value of lost materials and lost opportunities is a very important point that was already mentioned by Professor Fürth earlier. And here the focus has really been on how can we create the digital product passport in a way where it can use upstream material data to really support the downstream aspects. So while of course digital product passports are always structured in a similar way, we specifically extended the digital product passport beyond the ESPR legislation here to specifically focus on the end-of-life treatments that are required to circulate materials and introduce them back into the supply chain to make sure that beyond the existing regulatory requirement, there's this additional business model and opportunity for companies to use the data and the knowledge to circulate it. Now, if we look specifically at how the Compass project does digital product passports, we have two things we focus on. We've split this work in two. First, a DPP Composer platform developed by NLR that allows companies to collaborate around the creation of the data format for a digital product passport. Why? Because as you all know, there's always the whole format of digital product passports is still evolving. There are regulatory requirements, but many industries want to go much further. And therefore, the project has developed a platform where it's possible to just really collaborate jointly between partners to actually find out what do we actually want to track. And then secondly, on the actual tracking and traceability and the digital product passport, we have a software as a service platform that was introduced to the project and expanded innovatively in the project. Here, CIRC in a specific example of the digital product passport. And just a short side note, the project is not at its end yet, so you will not see the concrete digital product passport from the project in some of the cases, but some examples, given the data is still internal and sensitive for some use cases. So when we look at digital product passports and traceability, what we do is we look at three different sections. One is supplier data collection, because one of the most important things that we have seen in working on traceability and digital product passports at CIRC for more than 9 years is that for most companies, the problem is really collecting the data upstream and automating that process. So that has been one of the focuses within the Compass project to really automate the supplier data collection upstream to make this more reliable and faster and safer for products for companies. Then, of course, most companies need to really manage data themselves. That's what you see in the middle, batch traceability and in AI-enabled insights to really understand what does my data do, what do I have, what kind of data streams go in and out. And of course, on the right-hand side, the digital product passport, the communication tool externally and the regulatory requirement as part of the ESPR legislation. One of the work packages within the project, in Work Package 5, we're specifically focusing on AI insights, meaning how can data that is accessible to companies in the supply chain be used to really take better decisions. So specifically speaking, if I as a company have access to the data that has been collected through the system from upstream suppliers, how can I evaluate that? For example, asking questions to it to understand what's the total amount of a product or what are the differences between the materials in the product and so on and so forth to really use these insights and analyze the data I have, something that is specifically relevant in times of where the European market has to become more resilient, in times where supply of, for example, critical raw materials from outside Europe is not always secured. We really want to understand better what is in the product. And of course, on the visualization, the possibility to, through the system here for the traceability and digital product passport, to really assess the different stages in the supply chain. So not just the data about the final product, but really specific sections upstream in this, here specifically a Sankey diagram. So, I mean, we are talking about different digital product passport solutions in this webinar. So for me, I'd love to highlight the things, the most important learnings and how things are done differently in Compass and where we can provide additional information on innovations compared to some other projects that you've already heard of and that are doing innovation on this as well. One of the most important things we focused on is here really the automation of the data collection because we heard that this is one of the most difficult components, especially when we're talking about complex supply chains and long lifetimes of products. That has been one of the focuses of the project. Additionally, the focus on really giving suppliers the possibility to manage their data, who can see what kind of data, to really protect their IP whenever they want to, and to stay in control of their data. Plus the communication of CAT data, something that was very important in this end-of-life management and importing and management of product components that should be reintroduced into the supply chain, and data validation to really know data is correct. A specific additional focus was really the synergies between different software platforms. I think we all know that in the case of supply chain data and digital product passports, there's a lot of solutions that provide innovations. So what we've done here in the Compass project is explore the synergies on those and connect those. So for example, we have the traceability system of CIRC connected to the ADAC software that helps modeling products and understanding defects in a more visual way, plus with some more processing softwares that are able to, for example, plan cutting of end-of-life materials so they can be reintroduced, or detecting defects to really create this overall value.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so Jonathan, perhaps you would like to introduce the next speaker as this is your project.
I feel I've done our next speaker a slight disservice. Our expert from the DATA4CIRC project is Wan Li from Aachen University, but we prepared a video which we'd like to share with you, which will take up the speaker's time. So Wan Li will join the panel discussion and the Q&A session, but we'll just play the DATA4CIRC video.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan.
Sure, and don't forget, in the audience, you can leave questions in the Q&A tool, as Jonathan mentioned previously. Okay.
The DATA4CIRC project is an EU-funded research project working to develop a data-driven, AI-assisted digital framework to enhance circularity in manufacturing. The EU has set a target of doubling circular material use by
Tristan, I'm afraid that the screen is freezed. I'm afraid that the screen is freezed.
Aha. Apologies, there's some sort of error with the video player. We'll go again.
The DATA4CIRC project is an EU-funded research project working to develop a data-driven, AI-assisted digital framework to enhance circularity in manufacturing. The EU has set a target of doubling circular material use by 2030. But a lack of information about what materials are contained in manufactured goods is a major barrier to reaching this goal. The DATA4CIRC project aims to improve the data sharing needed to efficiently and safely recover, recycle, and reuse materials in a circular economy. The 4-year project, launched in November 2024, brings together a consortium of 13 partners from 7 EU countries, plus Japan.
Digital product passports are central to the EU Circular Economy Action Plan, and, as they are phased in, have the potential to be a game changer for circular value chains, making products and materials traceable, supporting so-called R strategies like reuse, repair, refurbishment, remanufacture, and recycling. DPPs can hold information such as unique product identifiers, technical data, information on environmental impact, supply chain data, and much more.
But making DPPs work in practice isn't that simple. They must remain available and be kept up to date throughout a product's lifespan. As they may contain proprietary information, they must also be secure. Without the necessary infrastructure, DPPs could become cumbersome and data remain siloed.
Our DPP is designed in alignment with the DPP 4.0 concept and is built on the Asset Administration Shell, AAS, standardized in IEC 63278 from the International Electrotechnical Commission,
Just as shipping containers revolutionized global trade by providing a standard size and format, the AAS standardizes how we package and share digital product information across different companies and systems. Standardization is essential for ensuring that DATA4CIRC's research outcomes are interoperable, widely adoptable, and have lasting impact beyond the project's duration. By developing a standards document alongside the European Committee for Standardization, DATA4CIRC is strengthening its role within the European standardization community and lays the groundwork for future CEN or ISO standards. With the AAS as its backbone, the DPP ensures interoperability across systems and supply chains, supports regulatory compliance, and enables seamless integration into circular economy workflows.
Beyond DPPs, DATA4CIRC is developing a digital framework with a federated data space at its core. This data space will connect with different organizations, DPP platforms, using a common language for modeling, namely the AAS, and exchanging product data, so that interoperability is guaranteed across the value chain. The end goal is for the DATA4CIRC platform to provide value to data owners, helping them make more sense of their data, whilst also functioning as a secure broker, allowing data owners control over users, access, who in turn can achieve added circular value.
The DATA4CIRC platform will also link with digital tools like lifecycle assessment, digital twins, and digital threads, utilizing semantic modeling and ontologies to allow data to flow seamlessly within and between organizations.
The platform will be tested in 3 real-life use cases. The first will seek to establish a brand new value chain in agricultural plastics.
The second will extend an existing value chain in waste electronics, aiming to boost recovery and reuse of spare parts.
The third will exploit an existing value chain in the automotive sector, specifically catalytic converters, using digitalization and DPPs to demonstrate compliance with regulatory standards and open new business opportunities. DATA4CIRC has designed the high-level architecture for its DPPs and digital framework, and has a first proof of concept for its data spaces.
Our digital framework connects companies through the shared manufacturing data space. It brings together data, tools, and services within and across organizations. For example, Organization A can create an AAS-based DPP for its product using data from its design, production, and sustainability assessments.
Once published in the shared data space, Organization B can access this DPP to build its own DPP for a product that uses the components from Organization A. This simple exchange lays the groundwork for a truly circular and collaborative manufacturing ecosystem, where data flows seamlessly across the value chain. We invite you to visit our website and follow DATA4CIRC on social media to keep up to date with the latest developments in our journey to a greener, smarter, and more circular future for European manufacturing.
Okay, so I think we can really see the similarities between all our projects starting to emerge and how they can all interlock. It's really kind of coming into focus, I think. So then our fourth project that we will present before we open the floor to some questions is the one that I am working on with Panos. And again, we've also done a video presentation. I suppose we'll play that now. Unless Panos, you want to add anything before we begin?
No, Tristan, thank you. Let's play the video and it will be available later.
Sure thing. Okay. All right, so one more clip and then we can talk.
RICO's primary goal is to upgrade Europe's handling of its aluminium supply and metals marketplace. Via RICO's innovative packet of solutions, including the RICO Hub and the DPP, we can reduce the carbon footprint of aluminium production by enabling the use of secondary resources and improve the continent's self-sufficiency along the way. Digital product passports for aluminum is a critical step toward EU's circular economy goals that aligns with the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, ESPR, which mandates DPPs for industries like aluminum. By combining digital product passports with blockchain technology, we create a trusted system that addresses real supply chain challenges, from carbon footprinting and ethical sourcing to counterfeit prevention and compliance automation. Here's how this synergy plays out across 5 key areas. Ethical sourcing and provenance. Aluminum begins with bauxite mining, often criticized for environmental and labor issues. Through blockchain-backed DPPs, we can verify where materials were sourced, that they're conflict-free, and that suppliers follow ESG standards. Carbon tracking and green certification. Smelting is energy-intensive. With DPPs, we track the energy mix used and monitor life cycle emissions. Circular economy and scrap traceability. While recycled aluminum is energy efficient, scrap fraud is a concern. Blockchain DPPs provide digital identities for batches, documenting composition, reuse history, and buyback eligibility. Supply chain resilience and anti-counterfeiting. DPPs embed quality certificates, IoT-linked tracking, smart contract, driven recall alerts that ensures product integrity and traceability from smelter to end user. Streamlined compliance and trade. In a global market, DPPs provides a simplified documentation for all. Altogether, this blockchain plus DPP model doesn't just digitize, it redefines accountability in the aluminum supply chain. It builds trust, supports regulation, and future-proofs the industry. This image illustrates the DPP platform architecture. The users can access the DPP through a web or mobile app or by scanning a QR code. Recall Hub support this operation by providing authentication and data sharing control. All interactions with the DPP system, whether it's creation, retrieval, or update, go through a RESTful API, which connects external systems to the underlying blockchain via smart contracts. Let's dive into our game-changing features. First, material traceability. Our DPP exposes greenwashing by proving recycled content. Second, carbon tracking splits emissions by production stage. Third, smart contracts auto-generate compliance reports. Finally, AOL metrics guide recyclers, like which alloys can be remelted together. Why does this matter? For the industries, it's about market differentiation, proving their aluminum is greener. For the EU, it's enforcing circular economy rules. For consumers, it's trust. A recent study showed 70% of buyers pay more for verified sustainable products. This triple win is what makes the Recall DPP more than just a compliance tool. It's a catalyst for trust and transformation.
Okay, so that concludes that introduction to Recall. I don't know if Panos, if you wanted to add anything, just maybe tell us anything else, or we can move on into our Q&A section if you have nothing
I think it's better to go to the Q&A.
Wonderful. Okay, well, then I guess we can slightly ahead of schedule, but all the better because we want a bit more time to hear what you guys have to say to our questions. So
we have some questions for the panel, for the 4 expert speakers, first of all. I think, Tristan, you could display the first one on the slide.
Yes, I could. Once I find the correct slide again, here we go.
We've got quite a few questions already come in for all of the speakers and the keynotes as well. So please do keep asking questions in the Q&A tool as well. We're going to get to those too, but we have some questions for the panel, for the 4 panelists. The first is, how can we ensure interoperability and compatibility of digital product passports among participating organizations within future circular networks? I know Juan hasn't had a chance to talk yet. I don't know if he wants to give any thoughts on this, and if not, then I can open it up to the entire panel, but...
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, I would firstly give one short answer from my side. From my point of view, to ensure the interoperability, we need common data standards and shared ontologies, for example, and also a common reference architectures that all the participants in the circular value network can adopt. And also using open APIs, for example, and also align with existing EU frameworks. And I can give one example from our DATA4CIRC project, which is ongoing. It is still in the early phase, namely in the first year, and we have developed a common data architecture for DPP platform, which enables us to create DPPs automatically as much as possible using a common data model, which is the asset the administration shell. And this is a well-established concept in Germany and also well implemented currently in Germany. And this is a very good example to say that, okay, if all the participants in the value network use such model, and so we can create DPPs based on this such model, which can be, for example, further used, viewed, and also further developed in own organizations.
Excellent. I guess so. I guess I kind of wanted to follow up on this. Caroline, did you want to add something before we?
I can talk a long time about this topic. So, in addition to what was already said, which I mostly agree to, I think that, of course, the ongoing standardization activities in Sense and Elec are completely fundamental in JTC24 to bring this interoperability. May not be completely sufficient, but at least it's fundamental. I think that the implementation of the EU registry and the EU portal will be another step that will further bring interoperability, because this will be an interoperability meeting point where the truth will be in the pudding. Can you register your DPPs correctly? Can you export data in such a way that the common EU portal exposes the data in a common way? Can a market surveillance authority validate that a DPP is correct so this will also be an interoperability meeting point, a very important one. And I also think that the European Business Wallet that is being rolled out by the European Commission in parallel to the DPP will be completely fundamental in further bringing interoperability here from the perspective of decentralized identification mechanisms for organizations.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, basically, it sounds like there's an awful lot of opportunities. There's a lot of regulations and bodies working on ensuring this interoperability. But I suppose the key question that I have is essentially, how do you ensure buy-in and participation from all the organizations involved in this? How do you get business and manufacturers? How do you get them all on board? Because obviously this is often an obstacle along the way with some of the discussions that we've had. Teresa, maybe you have something to say about this one. Yeah.
I was just about to raise my hand, indeed. Thank you. Yeah, we've been, of course, working this for some time already, for now a total of 9 years across different industries. And for us, one of the most important things we found out in working with companies is that there's not a lot of disagreement on the main components of digital product passports. What we see is that a lot of companies and manufacturers would love to add some additional, like, optional data points to it to just encourage some more business opportunities. So what we see is that in most supply chains, it's the OEMs that have a lot of power in establishing traceability in digital product passports, and that most of them, when they start setting up the system, they don't just want to comply with regulation, but they also want to see what kind of additional data points can I add to maybe additionally trace recycled material content to communicate some positive sustainability efforts my brand is doing, or how can I add some additional data points to track more insights into my upstream supply chain, to identify bottlenecks, to identify countries where some very crucial upstream materials are coming from, to reduce my risks.
Okay, so there is actually some buy-in already. In fact, they're quite interested in adding to this effectively, because obviously they want to make it work for them. I mean, who doesn't? Well, Martin, you raised your hand. Perhaps you would like to jump in.
Yes, I think the question you raised, Christian, is the most important one. It's touching upon the behavioral issues. So the technical issues, I think they all can be solved by standardization and other means, as Carolyn pointed out. But how assure that the suppliers do not only once enter some data, and so, but that the data are really accurate, complete, and up to date. I think that's the core question, to keep them always updating the system and the data. And key in this is that they do not have different spreadsheets to comply with for the different customers, just one single point of truth in the DPP data set. And of course, that's why we also included the contractual obligations. It's part of the business to have this. You are not on the market without those data. So no data, no market. And this has to be, let's say, put a little bit further on the contextual and governance basis. No accurate, no complete, no up-to-date data. And then you don't have a market. And there, I think, is the point we have to consider. And there, I think this will be a learning process, a learning system. So we have a learning curve, and a lot of companies are already starting. So I totally agree with what Teresa said. There are a lot of companies that see additional benefits. They see after-sales markets and see other business opportunities. And in this respect, the DPP, in fact, offers a lot of benefits for companies offering high-quality, long-lasting products.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Martin. I think that also brings us very much on, if not covers quite a bit of, the next question that we had prepared for the panel, which Tristan can display on the next slide, is which I say the question is, beyond technical and regulatory readiness, how do we communicate the purpose and benefits of DPPs to consumers and non-technical stakeholders so they become active participants in the circular economy? Do any of the panelists have anything to add to what's already been said?
Actually, oh, sorry.
Please.
So the consumers are the mysterious part of the DPP, how they will react to to the DPP if and when it becomes available. Will they actually use the QR code? Experiments today show that it's actually not used very much by people voluntarily putting QR codes. So whether the consumers will be actually enabled by this tool, it may take some time for the learning curve. Like, what is it in for them? Will it make it easier for them to resell a product if they can link a product that they're putting on a secondhand market to the previous DPP, for example? There must be some benefit for them, because consumers, it's not so many that actually care at the moment of when they purchase, that care about the environmental performance of their products. So for me, this is the big mystery part. I can see DPP adoption by downstream economic operators that want to make maintenance faster or resell. This is clear. There's a business case here. For consumers, this is less clear.
Yeah, just kind of asking to do a bit extra, effectively, at certain points. But so I guess a key part of it is to focus on communicating the overall benefits. Obviously, if we can find a way to make that benefit appear in the cost, that would be nice. But I mean, the climate benefits and efficiency benefits, I guess, kind of speak for themselves somewhat. Martin, you've thought about this?
Yes, just one brief addition to the intervention from Carolyn. In the ESPR, there's not only consumers considered, but also customers. So, and customers meaning professional buyers, being at companies or authorities. So in this learning curve, and that's why we put this public procurement tender in the simulation game, I think the first move might come from procurement, being it private or public, and there are the means and the rationalities towards the benefits of the data might be the first one, and then the others might follow. Just one additional remark.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of leads me to something I wanted to direct to Panos, actually, with regards to this. So this question of the procurement process and some of these technical aspects of how we make this all work. Do we have a good example of that on RICO? Maybe you could tell us a little bit more, expand upon what was in the presentation about this. How does this function, and how does this differ from kind of pre-existing processes to ensure that there's a fair tendering process despite everything having this single point of truth, I guess? If I'm trying to follow here.
Okay. So I was one that I also mentioned that we are, for example, decided to use blockchain technology for the development of the DPP. So that's a technological aspect that for us was important. I saw also another question in the Q&A, why someone can go and choose to have a DPP using blockchain. And I have to say that although it is not necessary, if it used in the right way, it can help you, since it can provide a trust layer that can be very important for the DPP. Blockchain is a perfect tool, for example, if it can be considered as a trust anchoring, securing logging critical events like a product creation or a major ownership transfer, because it provides an undeniable audit trail without a single controller. Another, for example, important technology that can be used in the DPP is self-sovereign identity, which let companies and consumers control their digital credentials and decide what to share and with whom. So the idea is to choose carefully the technology because we don't want to add complexity. We want to reduce the inherent complexity and build a trusted system between competitors by replacing fragile bilateral agreements with robust cryptographic verification, for example, if we choose blockchain.
So that's, for you, a very key enabling technology to make this all work, really, at least in our project, RICO.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we can move on to our next topic, which again is a bit more of an open one. Effectively, this is the question I forgot to put up here. So from your perspective, where are the biggest research and innovation gaps that future Horizon Europe or other programs should address to accelerate the adoption of DPP? I mean, you've all told us an awful lot about how many, like, it doesn't sound like there's many gaps, but because there were so many different solutions discussed already. But I don't know if one of you wants to jump in and tell us a bit about some key gaps that we're missing and some key obstacles that are still in the way. Carolyn.
Yes, so for me, it's getting the data from upstream. So this was already mentioned by Teresa in her presentation. One of the main gaps is on common vocabularies, standardized vocabularies. And these vocabularies are necessary to ensure that the data is semantically interoperable. One gap that could probably be easy to fill is AI-assisted vocabulary generation for ecosystems. I think that would be a very big, important gap to fill. And also, many upstream suppliers have very, very little digitalization capabilities. So for them, any tooling that makes it very easy for them to supply data in interoperable ways. So because for the moment, you have big brands asking for data, and all of them are requesting data in different formats. And so small companies are forced to push data in different formats to different platforms. And this is a catastrophe, of course. Tooling that enables these companies to remain sovereign over their data, not having to push it anywhere, but also reusable by any actor, any brand that needs this data, can come fetch it on their servers. I think that would be things that really need to be deployed and developed and at low cost for companies that are really not digitally advanced.
Yeah, Teresa and Monica. Teresa, please go ahead, and then Juan will move on to you.
Yeah, if I may add, I mean, there's now a lot of different parties picking up digital product passport solutions. There's a lot of options on the market with different focuses, right? Some more on verification, some more on AI, some more on blockchain, some more on different focuses. But I think it all is built on an underlying same ontology. So therefore, I know we're in this project together as different DPP projects, but I just wanted to highlight again that the Surpass project, represented by Carolyn here, is not the typical digital product passport project, but actually one that tries to standardize a lot for other digital product passport solutions and projects and so on. Let me know if I'm putting words in your mouth, Carolyn. But so in that sense, I think that is one of the key things that are so relevant and that are on its way, but that will have to develop further, because digital product passport solutions like us, that cater to customers, we look to data standards, we look to ontologies to see how can we make sure we all speak the same language. And for that, it is very good that there is this space to really bring the different types of knowledge together and have a standard that goes, if I may say, beyond the ESPR legislation that is extremely critical, but that needs further implementation support.
Okay, and then I think we have time for Juan to jump in as well and add something to this, and then I think we'll open the floor to some audience questions after that, if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan. So Juan, please.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I have some brief points regarding the gaps between the research and innovation. The point, for example, Caroline and Teresa mentioned about the ontology, the common vocabulary. And it is exactly the point that if there are multiple vocabularies existing and who are describing the same concept using different words, and one of the gap is how to address this problem if there are semantic conflict. And one other point, what if there are vocabularies that they are using one same term, namely one same word, but they are meaning, they just meaning differently. And what should we solve such problem? And another problem, the research gap is in the current ESPR regulation. There are only several mandatory points defined. For example, the identification link is each product should have an identification link, and it should have a name of the product, for example. But they do not mention what kind of data exactly should be included in the DPP. And this is and especially for sector and product specific DPPs, there should be group of data that should be specified in standard or regulations. And so that companies or organizations have a clear target what kind of data they should collect. And a further point is there will be a very large repository of DPPs in the future. Alone in one company or in one small organization, there will be 1,000 or 10,000 DPP. And one problem is how should you browse and find the exact data that you want from the perspective of organizations. I mean, if it is for a specific product instance, it has a unique identifier, such as a QR code. The end consumer just finds the data of the DPP data of that product. But if within one organization, you have so much DPPs and you want to find exactly some DPPs, and you need a query language, for example, and to find exactly the DPPs and the data that you want to find. And this is another research guide currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. I think it is time for us to move over to some of the audience questions. We've had a lot of audience questions come in. Thank you to the audience for those. I'm going to try and get us through as many as we can in the remaining time. The first ones, I think these probably are directed towards Martin. They came in quite early. But how does the Circular Economy Act affect data attributes in DPPs? And will mandate 614 satisfy the technical problems that you mentioned? I assume you know what mandate 614 is, but perhaps you could explain that to the audience members who don't, because I'm in the dark on that one, I'm afraid.
Yes, I'm too, and that's the reason why I distinguished between the technical side and let's say the behavioral side. And to my view, the technical issues are on a good way to be at least tackled, if not completely solved in the first stage. But that's, I would say, on a good track with all those ISO and joint technical committees, and all the other things that were mentioned by Carolyn, by the central data things offered by the European Commission. But the technical side is, in my view, of course, an issue to be addressed, but not the main issue for the functioning. And this new Circular Economy Act is, let's say, building upon the existing ESPR. So in my view, there is no, let's say, weakening to be expected. On the contrary, the single market strategy published a few months ago by the European Commission makes it very clear that they see a lot of potential in the digital product passport. So still and also the working plan for the ESPR is on track content-wise, and mostly even for the timing. A few months delay are not unusual for political processes. So I would say, unlike other reporting obligations, there is no, let's say, weakening to be expected. Why is that? Because the European Commission services and also the European Parliament see the benefits for European companies in such a market regulation, because it raises the bar to be on the European market, and under the assumption that the European companies are in a better position to offer high quality, long-lasting products, this helps the competitiveness of the European companies. So it's in line with the competitive compass. So I don't see any indication that this Circular Economy Act is weakening the DPP requirements, but of course we are in a political arena. No one knows what will comes out of it, but that's my take at the moment.
Thank you, Martin. I can see that Caroline has her hand up. Some of the things Martin's just touched on relate to another question, which I'm going to address to Caroline after I let her have her response to what Martin's just said as well.
Sure. So can completely agree with what Martin just said about the single market strategy, strengthening the position of the DPP, and and will likely be actually reinforced in the coming years. Concerning the Circular Economy Act, rumors have it for the moment that the DPP, this act is focusing a lot on recycling, and the DPP is not very present in the Circular Economy Act at the moment. So there's intense lobbying inside the European Commission to put the DPP more prominent into the Circular Economy Act, and I hope that they will be successful. But all of this is just rumors at the moment. I haven't seen the actual draft of the Circular Economy Act. About mandate 614, to the best of my knowledge, this is a Sensenelec standardization mandate for data spaces, which is much broader than just the DPP. For the DPP, the mandate is the Joint Technical Committee 24 of Sensenelec that is handling it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification as well. Well, I'll stick with you, Caroline, because one of the questions that came in, it's a very straightforward question to begin with. Who's eligible to join the Surpass platform? But following up on that, is it only within the context of the EU, or does this extend beyond the EU to intercontinental circles of value, I guess? And are there similar initiatives outside of the EU?
So the circular data video that was shown is you could see it as like a LinkedIn, a social media platform for DPPs. It's just about sharing information. It's not a DPP solution platform, nothing like that. We just felt that there was a need for a platform just to share DPP information, and we noticed that LinkedIn was too scattered, right? So rather than using LinkedIn groups, which we tried to do, etc., we decided to create the Circular Data platform, which is designed to facilitate collaborations. And so anyone can join the Circular Data platform and share news, share their piloting, and share any information like white papers that interests the greater DPP community, and look for partners. And if you look at the map on Circular Data, you can see that there are already organizations from all over the world, from South America to Australia to going everywhere, that are already deploying or interested in DPP piloting. So it's a good place to look for partners if you're looking, or to search by a specific sector that you're interested in, or a specific country. And it's just basically news and collaborations building platform.
Okay, super. Thank you. I'll carry on asking questions. We've got one that came in for Teresa, which was, how do you manage digital product passports, including recycled material, for example, to aluminium? And are you compatible with systems such as GS1? Again, I'm in a little bit in the dark as to what that is, but if you want to clarify that for all of the audience.
Yes, very much. GS1 has two things. First of all, they are leading on with their GTIN, so their QR codes and identification codes, but additionally, they're also providing more and more services for traceability. And I can say that at this moment, we can integrate with any additional traceability platform, so that would ensure the compatibility. And when it comes to aluminum, we are industry agnostic. We've started in the plastic industry, but also focused a lot on metals, critical raw materials, automotive, aerospace, and so on. So with electronics, we've been across different fields. So aluminum is definitely something we are able to handle. And also, I mean, recycled material tracing there's a lot of different ways to do so, but we also offer that with either mass balance or batch. There are different levels of traceability depending on what companies need.
Okay, super. I know Caroline mentioned earlier on the use of AI and what that might be useful for, but another one that came in for Teresa, how can AI help in data collection and traceability, as well as communication, for example, in supply chains?
That is a very good one. I think AI can help with a lot of things. One of the most important things that we are doing is using it to allow different types of formats. Because as Caroline mentioned earlier, upstream supply chains often have less digital skills. So just being able to, for example, answer in an email to the question on data instead of having to log into some system, or being able to send the data in a format that you have the data instead of having to reformat into some joint format yourself manually. Those are some easy tweaks that we're using. But I'm sure there's many more things. One of the most important things I think is also really the insights, because we are not all of us are material scientists. So really understanding what does it mean if there's X amount of this flame retardant in there, that flame retardant in there. Does that mean I have to be careful if I use the material further? Yes or no? What does it mean to compliance in a specific region? So really understanding those, having like a little check mark show up saying, oh, be careful, this might be tricky in your region, given compliance is different in your region in comparison to where this product comes from, just as a basic example.
Super, thank you. I'm trying to rattle through the questions. We have so many of them. Thank you again to the audience for asking such great questions as well. One for Wan Li, because we mentioned asset administration shells, but what is the role and effectiveness of asset administration shell submodels in the implementation of digital product passports into different pilot programs? I see Caroline's hands up as well, but I'll put that to Wan first.
Excuse me, please, Jonathan. Could you please repeat the question? I didn't understand it clearly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was, what is the role and effectiveness of asset administration shell submodels in the implementation of digital product passports into different pilot programs?
Okay. Yeah, from my perspective of view, you can just consider each submodel as a collection of information. And this information are just structured under same in the same way. You can say it is structured consistently, because these submodels are based on the same basic meta model of the AAS. So therefore, the AAS is considered one common information model which should be used for implementing the DPP. And it is not yet, however, it is not yet clear which submodels are currently mandatory for a DPP. For example, in the pilot project DPP 4.0, and it specifies the 6 submodels, including digital nameplate and contact information of the manufacturer or supplier, and also, for example, technical data and the carbon footprint. Yeah, and these submodels are just named in the DPP 4.0 project, but it is not yet specified as mandatory. This is as far as I know. Yeah. Would it answer the question? I'm not sure.
I hope so. I'm going to push this on. I know Caroline raised her hand. Is there anything?
So just for information, I said there were 13 piloting ecosystems in Surpass 2. Only one of them uses the asset administration shell. So we do want to support that, but for us, it seems clear that it should not be mandatory to use the asset administration shell should you want to use another approach.
Okay, thank you. Wan.
Yes, just follow up to Caroline's answer. Yes, of course, AAS is not the mandatory information model for implementing the DPP. It is sure, of course. And just one follow-up information that in one of the standards that the Synelec GTC24 are preparing, I think the number is the EN 18216 in this standard about the DPP exchange protocol, and the AAS is not set as mandatory, but it is one of the compatible system as the exchange protocol.
Okay. I'm going to ask one final question, and then I'll hand back over to Tristan for some final thoughts. We've obviously had a very mixed audience, which is fantastic. We've had some people who are very, very technically minded and have asked some very complicated technical questions, and we've had some members of the audience who've asked some broader questions. And this is one of the broader ones, and I think either for Panos, because I've not addressed anything to you, but I think possibly Martin, this will be in your area as well. Do digital product passports apply to companies of all sizes in the sectors that have been mentioned? And how are small companies to prepare and comply? I'll offer it first to Panos if you have any ideas.
Okay. TPP can be applied to small companies as well. If you consider the technological stack that can be used, and I will go again to the blockchain that I have mentioned in my presentation. In some cases, like for example, for small companies, the selection of the technology that could be applied for the DPP should be consider the complexity of the solution. So, for example, a small company, maybe it's better to go for a traditional architecture where a database will be the one that will be the central of the DPP that will store all the information. But in general, my answer is that the size of the company shouldn't be a problem when DPP is involved.
Okay, I did mention Martin as well. I don't know if he has anything to add to that.
Yes, I could. The answer of a lawyer is always the same. It depends. Yeah, and in this case, it depends on the delegated act. But in principle, it's not the size of the company, because let's say a 3-person company can sell 200,000 T-shirts. Yeah, so that's not the issue. It's more, are you, let's say, a carpenter and doing things on demand in one by one? Then might be different. So we have to see what the delegated act says. But in any case, the governance framework on a sectoral basis should allow it also smaller companies to sail under the same conditions, because the bigger ones will address the same questions to the suppliers and sub-suppliers as they will do. So in that sense, such a governance framework will channel the requests from one sector and then make it easier also for the smaller ones.
Okay, then. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Panos. Thank you to all of the experts and panelists that we've had. I'll hand over to Tristan for some final concluding thoughts and remarks. But again, thank you to everyone. We're slightly over time. Thank you for all of the attendees as well for your participation and for the fantastic questions. Tristan.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got 0 minutes left, so I'll just keep it very brief. I mean, just reflecting on what we heard today, and to bring it all the way back to the beginning to what Dimcho said, this really sounds like, having heard everything today, this really does sound like a revolutionary approach to traceability of products and materials like Ariadne's thread, but it's only going to work if it all fits together and it stays connected. And but nonetheless, we've heard about the technology and innovation involved, which I think we've got pretty well covered from the sounds of things. And we need buy-in from business, which Teresa assured us is actually in a relatively healthy state. There's some positive stuff that was new to me there. But as Carolyn said, the biggest obstacle remains the consumers, the customers, all the humans that are going to make this work. That's the mysterious part, as you got it. But yeah, luckily, as we're always reminded at these trans-European webinars and events, we can sit safe in the knowledge that there's a diversity of skill sets and an ability to collaborate on projects like all of ours, which means that we're actually quite well positioned to overcome the tricky boundaries and pain points and solve all those problems together to make the circular economy work. So I guess with that, I'll just say thank you very much for attending today. And Jonathan and I, for everyone who registered for the event, we will be sure to send you a copy of the recording. And of course, feel free to contact us if you would like, if you have any follow-up questions or anything else you would like to know from our side. So thank you very much.